Professor Manhas, who is our regular expert since the inception of the web lecture series, and he's also the flag bearer of this particular initiative of birth. He's the professor in the business school, University of Jammu, as well as in the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management. He's the coordinator of Global Understanding course, director, University Business Incubation and Innovation Center, and he's also the visiting professor of many universities at the international level. He's also his research areas are tourism, recreation, hospitality management, education, marketing, brand management, post-conflict, destination marketing, and so on. And he's also won the Institute of Hospitality Education Research Award in 2016 by European Council of Hotel, Restaurant and Institution Education. He also received prestigious Hungarian Faculty Research Fellowship and so many other faculty research fellowships at the global level. He also won the Best Career Award for Best Young Teacher by All India Council of Technical Education. And lastly, he has written so many books in tourism and hospitality theme, which have been acclaimed globally. So once again, I would like to repeat the topic for today, that is tourism, globalization and sustainability of destinations. So without wasting any time, I would like to request Professor Manhas if he can kindly initiate the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Very warm welcome to Prof. Bada. Nice to see you and all our participants from different parts of the world. I can see we have lots of participants from Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, and some of them from Egypt also joining in. So that's a heartening thing that we have a global audience today. And obviously Prof. Bada deserves it. He's one of those speakers who you all would love to listen to, and obviously you'll have lots and lots of thoughts which you can always share with him, and he can always talk about those particular things. I will just thank my fellow colleagues, fellow coordinators who have been helping me with this particular program, Dr. Ramjit, Dr. Nikhil Charak. These two are the coordinators and who have been supporting me in this particular program, and they have been a very good dear friends who have been working with me very tirelessly. For the benefit of our audience and the participants who have joined us today, I would like to brief that we are live on Facebook now. So this is a live feature going on Facebook. Because of some issues, technical issues, some people are not able to join, especially from Jammu and Kashmir. Our students are not able to join because of the low bandwidth and all that processes. So we decided to go on live on Facebook. And for the benefit of all the stakeholders, we upload all the videos on our YouTube channel also. So although they are very long videos, it's 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes chat. But the point is that they are very interesting, and we're getting very, very positive reviews from people on this. So our basic question and basic thought process is to create a learning environment and create a learning content. Prof. Bada, we are actually thinking of creating a lot of material for the students so that by sitting at home, they come to know about a lot of theories and practical aspects of tourism and hospitality industry. I know a lot of people are working on COVID and post-COVID and pre-COVID, but that's just one part of the scenario. We all are hardcore tourism professionals, and we should understand what is going on within the tourism and hospitality industry and see to it what strategies could be imparted vis-a-vis this is concerned. So that has been our prime focus, and that is the prime focus of these particular lecture series. We are just not concentrating on COVID, but we are concentrating on various aspects. So as the process goes, my part is to build up a prelude to the lecture and to see to it that things are working in a proper manner. So I'll build up a prelude, I'll build up a thought process, and I'll give my 2 cents about this particular lecture, and then we'll shift to what Prof. Bada has to talk about, and he'll be speaking for about 20 to 25 minutes with you on this particular theme, and then we'll have a question answer session. So to begin with, obviously, what I have seen over here, and this is a very, very positive aspect, that global tourism has never been more united than it is now. This is our industry, which is full of resilience, which has been full of empathy, which has people from varied backgrounds. They all are united, and this is what the UNWTO is also saying, that we are very, very united and we are looking after each other. And this is a heartening factor when we look at world as one big village, one big nation, one big regional entity, and we all work hand in hand. That's a very, very important aspect. And we were never more united than we are now. That is an important aspect. And around about out of 220 countries, 167 have started taking measures aimed at mitigating these crises. That's again a very positive aspect that you all would be here of. A lot of my students who are attending these lectures, and they send their questions to me and their thoughts to me, and they keep asking about the fact that what is going to happen with tourism. Are the countries going to work on the same manner or not? Are there going to be opportunities in the same manner or not? So you all can see 167 have started working and started mitigating the effects of the crisis, have started building up, started countering these particular crises. And 144 of these 220 countries have adopted fiscal and monetary policies. So again, a lot of good packages are coming in, a lot of things are coming in, a lot of the ecosystem is being built up for the tourism revival. Mind it, I have said it in my earlier lectures also, and I'm very firm on this, where I say that tourism may be the last or the second last to start building it up, but it will be the fastest to grow. And it will help a lot of countries to come out of their economic crisis. 100 countries of the 220, that means 50 countries at this moment, have already taken steps to start jobs and training people with the vis-a-vis what new protocols are going to be, what new SOPs are going to be. And this is going to be very, very important. And Europe has leading the way in this tourism restarting policies. That means 33% of destinations in Europe are now open and are working towards opening. Asia and the Pacific, 25% of their, 14% in Americas, and around 4% have introduced some tourism-specific policies so that they can be built up. I was sharing with some of my students earlier that we have this one of the concept where Baltic bubble, where countries in bubble have started working with each other, and they have started supporting each other, and they have started building certain sort of policies where their citizens can go from one place to another. For example, Australia and New Zealand is also doing, a couple of Baltic nations are doing, I think China and Hong Kong and Singapore, they are also started working on something. So this is going to be the new strategy where destinations in a bubble are going to operate amongst themselves, where there are going to be a lot of eased restrictions amongst themselves. I have been constantly talking about the fact that along with your passport in future, you'll also be carrying your medical history and all those aspects. So that's why this bubble concept has come up, and that this is building up in a very positive manner. What I feel is the future of tourism, as we have the topic today, is also talking about sustainability, is going to be stronger, greener, and more innovative strategies. And that's going to be what is very, very important that we feel in times to come. Sustainable recovery, obviously, as I've been talking about the fact that till December 2019, one very important topic that was being discussed by people was over tourism. A lot of research was being done on this particular factor. A lot of these things were being built up vis-a-vis this was concerned. But now over tourism is not there. In fact, there's zero tourism. But the best part is that whatever we had worked on vis-a-vis our SDGs are concerned, the 2030 SDGs, which were built up in 2015, they are going to be in vogue in a very, very big manner. Now, once we start rebooting, once we start rebuilding, one of the very important things that we should start looking at is that we build up in a very positive, effective manner. We see to it that things are in a positive manner, things built up in a, I'll just, somebody's scratching on the screens. Okay. So the point is that we would want that whenever the destinations start building up, start growing up in future, they start growing up in a sustainable manner. Strong partnerships are being built up for innovative and sustainable tourism. And as you can see, UNWTO has also tied up with IDB to come out with digital transformation and positive change. That is going to be a very, very important aspect. That how, as I've been constantly talking about the fact that technology interventions are going to be very important vis-a-vis tourism growth is concerned, vis-a-vis sustainable tourism building is concerned. They are very important. They are going to help you in grow in a very important, in a positive manner. And digital transformation and positive change is what people are going to be looking at. There's this Beyond Tourism Innovation Challenge, which helps in identifying the various disruptions that are being brought up in the tourism arena and what are the opportunities for all. So for the young students, young stakeholders, keep a watch on these particular things, and you'll be very, very glad to know that a lot of new disruptions are coming up, which are very positive and which help in the growth. Well, the prime aim for all these 200 220 countries and all the various destinations around the globe is to restart tourism and in a very positive manner, in an effective and efficient manner, and to see to it that the jobs are secured within the tourism industry, especially of the vulnerable section. As I've been talking about, the vulnerable section are the women, people with disabilities, people from the least developed countries, how they could come up, how they could build up, and how a better future through innovation and entrepreneurship could be brought up vis-a-vis this particular sector is concerned, and how it could be built up, and there could be growth vis-a-vis these things are concerned. There are a lot of obstacles to sustainable destinations, sustainable development of destinations globally, and some of these obstacles that what I've been looking at are, for example, there are sectoral activities of government, and insufficient intersectorial cooperation is there. That means not much coordination with the governments, regional governments, domestic governments, national governments. There's not much coordination among them, and also various sectors, for example, economics, finance, manufacturing. There's a lot of intersectoral cooperation is insufficient, because of which this is one of those obstacles to sustainable development. For example, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, they might go on building houses, they might go on building, developing hotels and all those things without taking into account what the hospitality and tourism industry is thinking about sustainability. So this is one of those obstacles which I feel which is a huge hindrance for our SDG goals. Also, there is a lot of lack of cooperation, because in a lot of industries are working in isolation, municipal councils are working in isolation, municipalities around the globe are working in isolation, but they don't take their DMOs and TMCs into consideration. They don't work out with each other. So that's a very negative aspect and one of the huge obstacles. Another is this short-term approach, this short-term program and financial measures where where the municipalities or the governments, successive governments, think of making money in short-term time, and because of which this over-tourism and all these things were happening. Sometimes they send this sustainable development out of the window. So they don't care about the sustainable development measures. But what I feel is that these should be very much a part of their game plan. What actually we are looking at, for these destinations, what sort of incentives they can have if they start building up sustainable. Obviously, sustainable development strategies in itself are an incentive for the DMO or TMC or a destination or a country, because they come out with so many positive thoughts. They come out with so many positive strategies, which will actually help in developing the local ecosystem, help in preservation of the local ecosystem, help the host communities in a very, very positive and impactful manner. And the lives of the host communities will be very positive. So that's what I'm saying. SDGs, are sustainable development strategies, in itself are one of the biggest incentives that we look at. And the whole development of the civil society is built up in that particular region. Developed regional and local developmental plans come up. So these are very, very positive incentives that we keep looking at. What can we do? What are the principles that we can follow so that these destinations could come up in a positive manner? Obviously, limit the human impact on the environment. So this is a very important aspect. Now, since we are starting from zero, since there was zero tourism in most of the countries and we are starting from a zero, we should be very, very conscious of the fact that now there will be limited human contact with the environment. We will build upon our tourism, we'll start working on tourism, but we will see to it that we don't reach a stage where we again have over tourism on hand. So that is going to be very important. Measures to biodiversity in tourist region. There are so many biodiversity parks around the globe, but which have been in one way or the another being eroded. A lot of degradation has been going on in these particular parks. Now is the time for the countries or destinations to start building it up and start using non-degradable materials vis-a-vis these biodiversity parks are concerned, and other areas are also concerned, and encourage long-term economic development. Don't look at those short-term goals which I was talking about, but look at long-term economic development with the protection of the natural resources and the technology interventions. I told you earlier also that technology interventions are the ones which are going to bring out that innovation, which are actually going to help us in growth of the society. So see to it that these technology interventions are for the positivity. Legal aspects, legal control agents are very, very important, and emphatically these tourism policing is done so that these legal controls are put in place and our natural resources don't suffer any damage. That's a very important aspect. lot of negativity happens vis-a-vis sustainability is concerned because of the fact that there is not an even distribution of cost and benefit among the regional stakeholders, the local stakeholders. So see to it, the countries or the destinations have to see to it that all the regional stakeholders, all the actual people who are supporting these destinations, who are living at those destinations, who are part of that particular ecosystem, they get benefits of this particular things. That is going to be very, very important. And each and every stakeholder should be asked to participate, ensure their participation, help them in to understand why their participation is required, and whatever decision making is being done, that should be part of it. As I visited Penang with Prof. Bada, and we have seen how they have got out with this Georgetown festival and how things are building up. A lot of local stakeholders, local crafts, and everything is brought up within that particular system. So that is a very, very important aspect which actually helps an end. What should we do to build up this accelerative approach? What should be our accelerative approach? Obviously, sustainable idea generation and upskilling these sustainable ideas. What happens is a lot of ideas come from youngsters, a lot of young professors, young teachers, or even our students. They come up with a lot of good ideas, but not much upskilling is done vis-a-vis these ideas is concerned. So that is a negative aspect. Idea generation is there, but after idea generation, no hand-holding is done for these particular people. So upskilling does not happen. Explore the potentials, embrace the weaknesses, employ those particular change. We have to understand as a destination what are our weaknesses vis-a-vis sustainability is concerned and how these things could be built up. This is very important, building around trend lines, not headlines. Well, this is actually not my words, but I was attending a webinar yesterday where I was a keynote speaker. One of the speakers said this thing, and it literally caught my attention. So we have to see to it that we go towards positive trend lines, not the headlines, not the short-term things, where we are only looking at making money and not looking at creating a trend line, a positive trend line. Change the customer behavior. Consumer behavior actually drives our economy. We are all for-profit organizations. Our industry is a for-profit industry where everybody is looking for making money. The students are getting jobs because the companies are making profit. But and if customer or consumer behavior is such that it is towards, it's not towards sustainability, then our destinations falter. So focus on changing consumer behavior. We have to work towards. And in the end, what we have, these are tourism and sustainable development goals. These 17 SDGs that we have and the corresponding 169 targets, these are very, very important for us. And we have to see to it that we take into account these particular SDGs and these targets, and we have them properly implemented. Well, hashtag stay home today, hashtag travel tomorrow very, very safely. Thanks a lot for listening to me. Thank you. And I've given my thought process. Now it's over to Prof. Bada. Prof. Bada, your thoughts. And thank you. Thanks for everyone for listening. Prof. Bada, we have made you as our co-host, so you can, I'll stop sharing. Now you can start sharing your screen, Prof. Bada. You are muted at this moment, so you can unmute yourself. In the meantime, I'll ask everyone to kindly switch off their cameras and mute their audio because of the bandwidth issues that we have. Prof. Bada, we can see your screen very well.
Can you hear me also?
Yeah, perfect. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Hello, everyone. Hello from Penang. Is about 3:45 or 3:50 in Penang. We are having a rainy season now. I'm speaking from my house near the airport. I've been given 25 minutes to speak. I try to cover the topic as fast as possible. The points that I'll be discussing that is about tourism, globalization, sustainable of destination. Since Prof. Manhas already spoke at length about COVID, and I'm sure all of you or many of you have attended many seminars regarding COVID, I will not be dealing much on the impacts of COVID-19 of the tourism on the tourism sector worldwide. But we all know that tourism is the worst affected. It's happened in Penang as well. You know, Penang. Tourism in Penang is #1 sector which has been affected very badly. A lot of hotels in Malaysia has been closed or closed down, and I suspect they close it because they do not want to bear the cost of having a high human resource costs, and I think they will be opening back. But a lot of hotel has been closed down. A cruise has been shut down in Penang, and airlines, Air Asia, have to lay off pilots, staff, and so on. One thing that we learned from the tragedy of COVID is that it seems like tourism, especially in my country, in Penang, is the level of survival rates of this industry, it seems very, very limited or very, very low. We've been shut down for only 2 to 3 months, then a lot of things already happening. So my point is that why we talk about social and environmental sustainability, I think this pandemic highlight the importance of economic sustainability. And the proposition today, despite the idealistic of sustainability, as mentioned by Prof. Manhas just now, I just want to bring back the story before and perhaps after this COVID-19, that tourism is just another wave of colonialization and is a big agent of globalization. One thing interesting that has been pointed out by Prof. Manhas is that in the end of last year, the end of 2019, the whole world was talking about over-tourism. Over-tourism was the topic. And suddenly, I think I think there is a blessing in disguise. COVID-19 came in and reset everything, and now we are not talking over-tourism worldwide. We are talking about, oh my God, tourism, what happened to tourism industry. So let's move on. Let me share on what happened in Malaysia very briefly. Tourism, tourism industry in Malaysia was a little bit late compared to many regions in Asia. The Dutch came to Indonesia, the Portuguese in the Philippines, and the Portuguese conquer Malaysia. The British also conquer Malaysia between 1867 to 1957. I think India also has been the colony of British. And during this period, a lot of migrants coming to work in tea plantation, and the Chinese working in the tin industry. And a lot of the Chinese people settled down in the urban area, and they started off the coffee shops, hotel, and so on. So the first wave was when the British established what they call their club houses, and normally they would choose the highland, like Genting Highland, the Cameron Highland, not Genting Highland, but Cameron Highland and Fraser's Hill. And local people will address them as Tuan Besar, or the big boss. So the British were the boss. Resort were developed as their escape or relaxing place, and the tourism was very much alien to the local people, especially the Malay. The concept of resort basically unknown to us. I was the village boy at that time, and suddenly I have this club Mediterranean came into nearby my house. It was heavily guarded. Nobody know what's going on inside this club Mediterranean. All we see as a village people were buses, passing through, taking picture of us without stopping by, and then they just leave the airport straight to this resort, and coming out from this resort straight to the airport. And along the way, there is a transformation of tourism trend and landscape, where the tea plantation is now a tourist product, where the heritage building, colonial building, has been regarded as precious, need to be safeguarded, need to be listed as a part of the UNESCO World Heritage listing. So from argument that why must we save the heritage buildings, but tourism came and basically saved the heritage building and turn it into a tourist attraction to be protected and turn into attraction. Fast forward 150 years later, the Southeast Asian region, the Southeast Asian countries, again, receiving economic onslaught from the superpowers. They came around, this time multinational. They are no longer European. They are no longer only Japanese, but the Chinese company, the Chinese tourists came, and they came as tourists, and they also came as investor. And before COVID, I think the whole Southeast Asian region were fighting to attract them. We used to fight against them. They were this former colonial, but because of tourism, everybody was trying to attract them. And for Malaysia, for example, we even prepare incentives like the long stay, like the medical tourism, like Malaysia My Second Home program. So this is the second wave is all about. And today, you will see the past colonial powers revisit their colonies, and I'm sure it's happening also in India and other part of Asia, to rekindle their past connection with the heritage site they once conquered, but this time leisure is their main motivation. But at the same time, we see new Asian economies. We see Vietnam is coming. We see the Mekong River countries, Thailand and so on, coming, including Malaysia, in recent years, and start reinvesting in the heritage and hospitality industry. But as we all realize that tourism has been a fragile industry, and there are so many fragile developing countries like Laos and Cambodia, which need the tourist money, but at the same time, they do not have this human resource infrastructure to contain or to manage the possible impact of tourism. Laos, for example, or Cambodia, for example, has been invaded or has been inviting foreign companies to build hotels and casinos, and some of these casinos belong to Malaysia. But at the same time, you go out from this casino, you will see poverty. You go out from this casino, you will see a very poor countryside, a very basic facilities, and so on. Let's move to Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat was raided by this Lara Croft, Angelina Jolie, Tomb Raider, and she's the one that helped popularize this World Heritage. And before COVID, suddenly you will Angkor Wat or Cambodia received millions of tourists coming into Angkor, causing a lot of problem. And again, outside Angkor, there are poverty, around. And this is the picture that I took in 2016. I've been to Angkor Wat many times, but the last time was 2016. The last time actually 2018, and I couldn't get onto any of these temple anymore because of overcrowdedness, because of over tourism and so on. We in Asia must remember that tourists come and go. From the experience of Malaysia, we experienced the arrival of Europeans, then Japanese, then the Asian people, the Middle East people, the Chinese, the Russian, and we look forward for the Indians to come and visit us. We know that the WTO numbers show that Russian and Indians will be the future tourists to target. Learning from what happened in Phuket, Phuket tourist profile, Phuket in Thailand, for example, evolved from the European, the Scandinavian tourists, moved to the Japanese, and from Japanese moved to Korean, and from Korean to the Middle East, to Chinese and Russia and other Balkan states. If you go to Phuket now, a big bulk of the industry of tourism has been monopolized or controlled by foreigners, especially from Russia. And a lot of the much loved Scandinavian tourists have left Phuket and start to explore other countries. If you talk to the local people, they say they miss this more the Scandinavian tourists, but they have to accept that, you know, the industry, the arrival of Chinese and Russian to their place, and they have to live with that. Look at this example. You know, one night market in Phuket. You can see this is a Thai night market, but you from this illustration of the crocodile barbecue, you can see that Russian, you know, word come as the top, followed by Korean, English, Chinese, and there is no Thai. So this is a symbolic, what you call a change that has been happening in that part of the world due to tourism. So the conclusion so far, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters across the world, that yes, tourism can transform society. Yes, the intention of tourism is to build the community around it in line with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. The models of development might be different from place to place, but we also have to remember that the relationship between host and guest remain the same. I want to revisit some of the. I want to revisit some of the past theories in tourism for those who are taking tourism development, tourism planning courses of studies. These are some of the popular theories that has been running around or floating around for the past many years, that the psychographic tourists, the backpackers, would only explore no. The psychographic tourist is the mass tourist, would only explore advanced popular mass tourism destination. Yeah, the psychographic tourist, the mass tourist, normally will explore advanced popular mass tourism destination. That's number one. Number two, the beach resort destination will evolve in a linear pattern. That is the model number two. Number three, the foreign visitors would come in when destinations are popular and no longer valid. That is number three. Number four, the advanced culture would overpower the weaker ones whenever they meet. So this is the four theories, the four models that has been studied, you know, analyzed from time to time. But look at what really happened on the ground. Let's go to Laos. This is Luang Prabang. We see tourism came. It's no longer backpackers. You know, big companies came and take over. The tourists came and take over the inner city of Luang Prabang. Many old families have to sell or rent their properties to foreign entrepreneurs, who eventually turn them to into guest houses, restaurants, and other tourism-related uses. And these outside entrepreneurs do not have connection with the local people, with the local temples, and as a result, one or two temples has been closed down due to lack of fund. So we talk about the death of Luang Prabang. We talk about, for example, in the morning, if you go to Luang Prabang, you will see the monk would come out and give what you call the local people would cook the food and give the rice to the monk. And this takbat ceremony is now becoming shows for tourists. And you will see 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, tourist buses came, and you know, they prepare the food and line their tourists for tourists to give the food to the monk, which defeat, you know, the whole idea of the ritual between the monk and the local people. And eventually, I suspect that the local community would present a fake monk to the tourists, while the real monk perhaps will go somewhere else and entertain the local people. In Bali, Indonesia is another classic tragedy. You know, most or a lot of the land in Bali has been taken over by the big corporation. And sorry to say, due to this COVID-19, a lot of big companies have left Malaysia, leaving Thailand and Indonesia. And this is a classic tragedy where big companies during good time will come to a destination, buy things, buy land, invest. But when things doesn't, go along the storyline or the growth, they will leave. And Bali has been suffering very, very badly. And, this is illustration by a friend of mine, Professor Dharma, that basically the whole Bali has been sold. And unfortunately, it seems like the Indonesian authority never learned that they are now starting a new project called Mandalika Resort in Lombok, which is nearby. And Lombok supposed to be the opposite of Bali. Lombok is like the Krabi of Phuket. Lombok is like a more relaxed, a more laid back, a more village, it's more traditional counterpart of Bali. But eventually, they are starting this Mandalika Resort master plan. I visited this place last year, and it's a massive project that attract, huge investment from all over the world. But outside this resort, you will see poverty, you will see traditional village, and so on. This is again a big challenge. In Georgetown, I have about 10 more minutes. I'm going to speed up and finish it within 10 minutes. We know that we have been listed as a World Heritage City in 2008. Before that, we had this Rent Control Act, which kept the rent of what they call premises, business and houses in Georgetown very low. But because of the World Heritage status, the act has been listed, and because of that, a lot of people have left Georgetown, and business are moving out, and more tourism-related companies, facilities, activities coming into town. Gentrification, we receive investment from Singapore, for example, from China, for example, from Taiwan, for example, taking the more colorful pre-war buildings and starting, they buy the a la carte and change the facade and the uses of this building into very monotonous. And as we speak, this process is running around. The local people cannot afford the rent anymore. As you see that 20% of traditional traders and craftsmen in Georgetown, Prof. Manhas, you were there. We walked together, the city. As we walk, more and more traditional traders and craftsmen disappearing from the scene. So the latest wave for us in Malaysia is the arrival of foreign tourists. We know that we are selling our country as Malaysia, truly Asia, but at the same time, while we are very multicultural in nature, but I think the challenge for us is how to manage the influx of foreign workers in a lot of our sectors, crucially in the service sector. So how do we present Malaysia as a country where we had a lot of foreign workers working in the industry and present Malaysia in different way? So the latest wave, ladies and gentlemen, we see a lot of monopoly by foreign companies on local tourism resources. Tourists from their countries come and enjoy and turn our countries as a playground. You see in Korea, you see in Japan, you see what happened to the kimono industry in Japan, for example. It used to be 100% owned, designed, sold, rent, used by the Japanese. But if you go to Kyoto, if you go to Tokyo, you'll be surprised that a lot of these companies has been owned or transferred to the Chinese, and they design in China, the kimono made in China. They put it foreign in Kyoto to be worn by the Chinese tourists, and you will see the Japanese people come to these Chinese tourists to take picture with the Chinese tourists who are wearing the kimono. So things going How are you? So as a conclusion, I know I'm ahead of time. I'm keeping my time here. I have about 5 more minutes. But my point here is that let us go back to our cities, town, and countries, and you will see that tourism is indeed an agent of globalization. You know, we cannot deny that. You will see that the history will repeat itself. The colonial power, you know, so-called visited our place for spices, for our resources. They come again for our resources, turn our country's beautiful places into their playground, investment in tourism industry, leave whenever things are not going well, for the local people to, you know, to scramble and reset the whole thing. The relationship between host and guest remains status quo. When they came to our region, we call them big boss. We are still calling them big boss, unless, you know, the local people are empowered with knowledge, with IT, with all the necessary tools to manage, to own the business. Southeast Asia is again facing challenges from the second wave, third wave of globalization and capitalism. And financial investment is good. Yes, we welcome financial investment, but as I said, that we do need to empower the local communities for them to survive the dynamics of tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Thanks a lot. I think you can stop sharing your screen. Well, that was a very insightful presentation, and we're glad to hear about it. And finished well within time. That's the best part. A lot of our students are having tough time coming in and going out because of the network issues. So they were not able to hear. Some of them were not able to hear, but I think now those issues must be sorted out.
I hope you all can hear my, the line is okay on my side, right?
Yeah, your side it was perfect, and we could hear. But the positive aspect is that we have this going live on Facebook also, and we have it going live. We'll have it uploaded on YouTube also, so they can always take a look at the videos and all those. But one very important aspect that I've been thinking about on these lines is that what our Honorable Prime Minister of India has also said about is go local. And what I feel is that as UNWTO has also been mentioning and things have been going, that domestic tourism is going to be the one which is going to pick up for the first time. And to begin with, domestic tourists would like to travel within 100, 120, 150 kilometer radius. And within domestic also, I think the religious aspect of tourism is very important because it's going to be emotional driven. And what's your take on this? What do you feel that, am I on the correct lines or you have something to add?
Well, even before COVID, you know, I always, when I have the opportunity to do my presentation to the government, to the tourism sector, anywhere, I always put that in order for you to survive, in order for you to sustain a destination, you need to have a very sustainable and vibrant domestic tourism. Yeah. You cannot over-reliant on international tourists. So, you know, it's everywhere. Venice, for example, you know, suddenly it's become very quiet because they're so reliant on international tourists. So, so the key for any sustainable tourism anywhere, if you have to focus or pay attention or what they call appreciate local tourism first. And once it's getting popular, naturally, the international tourists will come and join.
Yeah, that's what I feel, that domestic tourists are there to stay and they have larger amount of stakes. And when we talk about this combination of sustainability and tourism, I think because domestic tourists understand the whole ecosystem and they want to be within that particular ecosystem, and they're not, domestic tourists are not following the policy of use and throw. So that is a very important aspect, that okay, I'm here and maybe never in my lifetime I'll be back over here. So the only thing is today I'm here for 10 days and I'm not going to be back over here. So why should I worry about it? So especially the destinations like, for example, my hometown, which gets around about 10 million tourists in a year. So these majority are domestic. So that's why they have that appreciation aspect, and they also look towards that they have to take care of it. Nikhil, do you have any question for us? You want to ask any question from us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have few questions. I'll just go through the question. What are the factors adopted by agencies in Malaysia pertaining to biodiversity?
Okay. So, Prof. Bada, that's directly aimed at you. So, Malaysia, you will be able to answer.
Say that again.
So he's asking about what are the various practices being adopted by Malaysian government to improve the biodiversity within the region.
Yes, pertaining to biodiversity.
Yeah, I think the biggest measure, and this is very important, is to make sure, the federal government and the state government have the political will to what you call list or to designated fragile areas or what you call environmentally sensitive area as a reserve area, a national park. You need to do that. You need to do that. You need to make it a national park. You need to try to get into Ramsar area. You need to do. You need to make it into a reserve area. If you don't do that, one fine day, big companies will come and knock the door and say that they're going to develop a resort, and you cannot do it. So from our exercise, like most of the places in Malaysia that has been protected, actually protected by the act, by the status of the land itself.
And to add to that, it's just not Malaysia, but if we look at biodiversity and if we are looking at how it could be implemented and developed, I think a lot of close intersectoral interactions between the regional, the national, the local municipalities has to be there. And that is going to be very, very important. Sometimes what happens is that a lot of things run within these governments as parallel, and they are in a way contradicting each other. They are not in a way complementing each other. So what I feel is that strategies, obviously governments around the globe understand the concept of biodiversity or sustainability. They want to have built it up. The only factor is that there is a lot of complications, and they in a way run parallel approaches, and they run parallel approaches. They are not beaded out into a one common thread as you were referring towards. So there has to be all the beads have to be joined in a proper manner so that all the projects, all the programs that are being used, they complement each other, they help grow each other, not undercut each other. Nikhil, any other question, Nikhil? We still have 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. It is pertaining to India. Sir, it is what responsible initiatives DMOs need to take now to inform tourists to act responsibly in order to achieve the sustainability of destinations in India, precisely.
Okay. So coming back to India now, so the fact is that when we talk about responsible tourism, and when I in my presentation also I said that most of the activities vis-a-vis our industry is concerned are consumer driven, are driven by our customers, and the way they act, the way they react, the companies also start working on it. And since all the stakeholders at this particular time vis-a-vis tourism industry is concerned are sitting home, are developing things, what I feel is that they could create these virtual programs, they could create these different videos, different thought processes through which they can educate the customer, through which they can educate the consumer. Education of the consumer or the customer is the paramount aspect. So if you make them realize that this is what is required and this is what is to be done, that is going to be very, very important. Secondly, I have been always talking about the strictness of the laws vis-a-vis our country is concerned and vis-a-vis the developing nations are concerned. The laws sometimes are there, but they are not implemented properly. So vis-a-vis tourists are concerned, they should be taught about it. They should be educated vis-a-vis what sort of laws are there, what sort of things are working on, and what is a strict no-no and what can be done and what cannot be done. So building up a linkage between them, making a tourist understand, making a customer understand. And again, I was also thinking about this particular thing, that whenever a tourist comes or year around, a lot of programs keep on, a lot of offers are being given to the tourist. Can we also start rewarding the tourists who actually help in the preservation of that domestic environment? it can be thought of. Okay, maybe a couple of free nights to the people who actually go back and advocate the sustainability aspect of that particular region, the sustainability aspect of that particular destination. So that would also motivate more tourists to come and start working on those particular lines. Nikhil, anything else?
Yes, sir. I have a few questions more if we have time. So I'll ask one more question.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. Would it be possible to achieve sustainable tourism in this phase of COVID globally?
Yeah, Prof.
Why not? Why not? I think sometimes we overreact, with what happened with COVID-19. Before COVID, we have SARS, we have MERS, we have all kind of disease which still do not have any antivirus yet. So I think there's, as I mentioned earlier, COVID-19 is just an intervention. It's a resetting things, before over tourism to under tourism or zero tourism. I think this is where everybody needs to sit down and realize that tourism is very fragile and anything can happen, and you need to be thinking not only environmental sustainability, social sustainability, but also economic sustainability. Sometimes when we talk about sustainability, we are always talking about environmental aspect of it. We forget about when company close, when resort close, when airlines going down. There's a lot of lives that been impacted by the whole, tragedies, and that create impact to the families, to the social being of the staff. So I don't see COVID will stop us from moving further into sustainable tourism.
And to add to that, like every adversity that comes, it makes us stronger, and it makes us to rethink what we have to do. It helps us to re-strategize. And what has happened, I'll give you an example. Because of over-tourism, a lot of fly-by-night tourism companies had come up. A lot of fly-by-night destinations had come up. Their only aim was to make money and nothing else. And these destinations or these companies are now out of business. So they are gone. Only serious tourism stakeholders are there, and who actually want to look at longevity, who want to see to it that this sector grows for a longer time period, and who are looking at returns. So they would be the ones who would be actually working up, trying to build up, trying to understand the aspect of how things can be done, how things can be built up, how things can be done in a positive aspect. So I don't see COVID as an hindrance to sustainability. In fact, COVID, the SOPs that are coming up, or the protocols that are being built up by the airlines or by the destinations or by the countries, they are very, very hygienic, health friendly, health conscious. They are looking at those particular practices which are for the betterment of tourists. So what I feel is that even after COVID, we'll be more learned, we'll be more working towards sustainability. Now we don't want any littering at our destinations, because this littering can help in growth of virus and diseases. So we don't want that to happen. We want proper disposal of all the waste products that we have. We don't want these waste products to breed any type of germs or any type of make any health hazards or something like that. So what I feel is that after COVID, we will come out more stronger, and we will be looking at more sustainable. Nikhil, I think we will have post rest of the questions to Prof. Bada and take answers from him for that. We have another colleague of ours, Dr. Ramjit, who is the co-coordinator of this program, and he's from the Central University of Kashmir. So he'll just sum up, Prof. Bada, he'll just sum up and finally end up this particular.
Sure.
So, Ramjit, you're there? Can you come on?
What did you say just now?
I said one of another colleague is now going to take over, and he'll give the concluding remarks.
Is the
voice is not
Hello?
coming.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes, I can hear.
Okay.
So is that okay?
So Ramjit, we can start now.
Yeah,
Maybe
because same thing problems is due to. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. It's a very good afternoon to all our esteemed experts, Professor Bada Mohamed, Professor Manhas, dear scholars, colleagues from India and from the other countries. It gives me immense pleasure, and of course, I feel very proud to be part of this particular international web lecture series, which has been initiated by Professor Manhas as one of my co-organizer or host. Mr. Nikhil, he has already given the brief introduction about him. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot, giving us an opportunity and, of course, enlightening us to you, giving the very relevant facts and figures about the tourism and hospitality industry. And of course, the special thanks to all my students from India or across the world who are continuously writing to us about this particular series and giving us the feedback. And Professor Bada, it's a great pleasure for us to listen to you once again. And we may got certain lectures and in the conference or the seminars online also. And of course, the Professor Manhas, again, he had given very wonderful and relevant and very recent that the facts and figures about especially talk about the obstacles and about the principles of sustainability in terms of the global destination, how they are operating, and of course the acceleration approach, which he has mentioned about the sustainable idea and the upskilling of the ideas and the stakeholders, and of course the problem of the integration among the various intersectoral process. And Professor Badr, that the waves you had given us is really was amazing, and with the certain very good examples of related to Bali and Tabat, and the example that we were going to maybe recall in future, giving examples to our students while we are conducting the classes. And of course, it is a pleasure for me to announce that they are my students, especially due to the poor band length. They're especially from the Kashmir Valley. They are participating throughout this lecture series, and they are benefiting a lot. And even though we are authority, also convey the sincere thanks to all the expert who has participated, and especially Professor Manhas. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, because time is we are having a less time, because the students have to participate in their own lecture also after this particular lecture. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Big thanks to audience. Big thanks to our experts. And we are constantly putting all the updates, and you may reach or at Facebook, WhatsApp page, and at the end on the behalf of the birth. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Be safe. Be active. Thank you. Thank you very much.
A lot. Now it's one very important thing that we do is our digital selfie. So I'll ask everyone to switch on their cameras so that we can have a digital selfie. Everyone switch on their cameras, and we are grateful for Bada. I was looking at the, and today we had students and participants from about 7 countries. So we had somebody from Philippines joining in, from Malaysia joining in, from Kazakhstan joining in, Indonesia joining in. And to all the students, our next lecture, to all the stakeholders, it's going to be on Thursday, on 25th. And Dr. Rakshad is going to join us. So she's going to deliver a very impressive talk. So I would like to see all of you on Thursday again at 1 p.m.